All right, so for this section, we're looking at formulas and problem solving. So I'm going to just work these examples for you. So essentially, you're solving for an isolated variable that they identify for you to solve for. But before we do these, we want to look at problems where we are given a formula, right? So this is like area formula, area equals length times width. And we are provided with values for the area. Right, so they give us the value of the area, and they give us the value of the length. So what are we missing? Well, we're missing the value of the W. And so what you do is you substitute in what you know. So you substitute in what you know, and then you're going to solve for what you don't. So I have 40 is A, L is 10. I don't know W. So 40 equals 10 times W, right? So we're just going to divide both sides by 10. So W is equal to 4. Okay? So given some formula or given some equation and values for certain variables, you should be able to solve for anything that is not given, right? For the remaining variable. So let's look at the perimeter formula for a rectangle. So let's say that we are given that the perimeter is 310 and the width is 70. Okay, we have to find the length. I made this up, so I'm hoping it comes out evenly, but let's just see what happens. All right, so we would substitute in perimeter is 310. We don't know the length, so that's 310 equals 2 times L plus what? 2 times W. So I like to use parentheses, or you can use the dot. It depends on you. So then we're looking at 310 equal to 2L plus, so 2 times 70 is 140. Now what? Well, now we are going to subtract both sides by 40. So I subtract from the 140, then I cross the equal sign, subtract from the 310. So 170 equals 2L. We're trying to find the length, so we divide both sides by 2, right? And so what does that give us? That gives us 85 equals L. Okay. And so given a formula, given an equation containing variables, you should be able to substitute in any given values you are given and solve for anything that is unknown. Okay? All right. So then what we do is we evolve to being able to solve equations containing multiple variables without being given values for the variables, okay? And so it just becomes a matter of us being able to solve, which means to do what? Isolate a variable to one side. So given an equation that contains more than one variable or more than one unknown, 8x plus 6y is equal to 24, and we want to solve for y. What does that mean? And so you can be given anything to be able to solve once you know the solving process. So to solve in the process of that word is to isolate the unknown. So for this particular equation, we have two variables, two unknowns. So they have to indicate which unknown they want us to solve for, right? So you have to be told who you're trying to isolate. So we're isolating y for this equation. Okay, so what's that mean? Well, it means that the 8x term and the 6 need to relocate away from the y, right? Because y needs to be on one side of the equal sign by itself. So remember, anything added or subtracted is always moved from the variable component first. So this whole 8x term needs to relocate across the equal sign. So if we are moving the whole term, we are going to what? Subtract it from itself, cross the equal sign. Okay, subtract it from the other side. So 6y equals. Now 24 and 8x are not like terms. So this is where you are halfway in to chapter 2. So 2.1 matters. 2.1 is where you learned what? Like terms. So you have to be careful here, right? So you're not going to get out of algebra by thinking you're going to be able to work these problems unconsciously. You have to stop and process the information. 24 minus 8x. Oh, those are not like terms. So there's nothing I can do there but what? Write them together. Okay. Now what? Well, now I need to divide by the 6. So you can just divide everybody individually, or you can divide them all at one time. Make sure you always reduce the lowest term. So negative 8 over 6 is negative 4/3 x plus 4. And we're done. The y is solved for, right? And that's all you need. It's not about an answer per se, right? This is about isolating the variable to one side. Isolating the variable to one side. Okay? All right, let's look. Okay, so let's look at this. So we have x plus y equals 11. We're solving for y. So if we're solving for y, that means we're trying to get y by itself. So that means the x needs to move, so we would subtract it from both sides. So y equals, well, negative x plus 11. And that's it. Now if you have 11 minus x, that's okay too. All right, next we have 3x plus 5y. Hold on. Let's do it up here. 3x plus 5y equals 15, and we're solving for y. So what's moving first? The 3x would move first, right? So negative 3x. Cross the equal sign. So we have 5y equals negative 3x plus 15. Now what? Divide everything by 5. Y equals negative 3/5 x plus 3. And that's it. Okay. All right. Next, 6x minus 4y equals 13. So we're trying to solve for y. So I'm a minus 6x on both sides. Divide both sides by negative 4. Okay, so I divided each one by negative 4, really, okay? And make sure you reduce your fractions to lowest terms. That's what I'm doing. This is a y, not a 4, okay? All right, you should pause it and do 6, 7, and 8 on your own and see how you do, right? Because I'm about to work them now. And practice, practice, practice. All right, m equals RST. So when you look at this equation, they're telling you you're trying to solve for t. So that means we need to isolate the t. So when you look at it, you should have looked to say, okay, who's on the same side with the t, the r and the s? Or how are these? I'm sorry, you might not even be able to see this. Let me write it first. M equals RST is our equation. So m equals RST is the equation. So we want to isolate the t. So we would need to move the r and the s. So they're multiplying. So we would just divide by them. So m over rs equals t would be the answer. And that's it. All right. So this one is a equals p plus prt. And then this one is 1/4 fk. I'm not sure if you could see the writing when you look at the video. So pause it now and do them. Okay. All right. So on number 7, we are trying to get r by itself. So the first thing that should happen is this p should move, this first p, because remember, anything that is adding or subtracting to your variable term is what should move first. So this minus p is what should happen, okay? So you can have negative p plus a, or you can just have a minus p equals prt. And then we are trying to get r by itself. So the p and the t would need to divide. Oh, sorry. The p and the t would need to divide. So we would get a minus p over pt. And that's it. No, you cannot cancel the p's. Don't try. Okay? All right. Then on the last one, d equals 1/4 fk. So what you want to do is really get rid of that 1/4 first. And so what would you do? Well, you would divide both sides by 1/4. But what does that mean? Because you can't leave a fraction in a denominator. What does it mean to divide by a fraction? Well, it means to multiply by the what? By the reciprocal. So you would really multiply both sides of this equation by 4/1, or by 4. So we would get 4D equal to FK. We're trying to get F by itself, so we would divide both sides by K. So 4D over K equals F. And that's it. It's just a process. Everything is opposite operation. Opposite operation, right? So that means that you should be able to solve anything, like a shape problem. So if you had shapes and I tell you to solve for the triangle, you should be able to solve for the triangle. So see if you can solve for the triangle. I'm going to let it run. I'm not even going to trust you to pause it. Solve for that triangle. It shouldn't take you that long. It's not hard. Do whatever. It's better to see what your mind would do so you can correct it than to not do it at all. So I'm about to show you how to do it. So if you want to finish, pause and then just play it, okay? All right, here we go. So if we're trying to get the triangle by itself, we would need to figure out how to move the square and the circle, because the triangle is who I'm trying to isolate. So the first thing that would move would be the what? The circle, because it's adding to the term. So minus circle, right? So square times triangle equals rectangle minus circle. And then we would do what? Divide both sides by the square. So triangle equals rectangle minus circle over square. And that's it. All it is a process. That's why once you know how to solve, you can solve anything. Okay? All right. That's